I'm going to try to see if we have something to talk about in this 2 week period. If we could, we have somebody leading the prayer and pledge. Prayer.
Heavenly Father, thank you once again for the opportunity to come together to support each other. We need each other as we move forward to negotiations and pursuing aiding and assisting each other. We need you, Heavenly Father. All things we thank you for and appreciate. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This morning, Secretary, Local Secretary, may ask, was absent. If you don't know, she doesn't have for me. Her husband is pretty ill. So I'd like a minute of concentration regarding that.
Good to see you, sir.
Thank you. Paulaville, VP at the Secretary of State's office, has to work today. She excused trouble as is May. All right. So due to that, at certain times I'll talk a little slower, so our temporary secretary will be able to get it down. Let's do roll call, which May usually does, so I'll do regular roll call. Myself. I think I see that all is present. Except May. To the stewards and the executive board members who are here, that would be great. Start over here. I'm Nick Harrison, SLP steward and board member. Across the CWA, board member. Dwayne Jones, Paul Willis, Medical Center. Tony Brown, Medical Center.
Tony Chuck, that will be.
Thank you. Paul, Willis? Yes, sir.
Let me read back to you here about Nick Harris, Wayne Cornegay, Fred Woods, Wayne Crawford, Tony Brown, Paul Willis, Tony Chuck, and Wayne Jones. Right. 70 jobs.
secretary is absent, I need a motion from the floor to have those minutes read at our at our April meeting. Do I have such a motion? Lynn Fornegate. Do I have a second? Wayne Crawford. All in favor, say motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. The motion is passed. Gotcha. As I said before, this is a bi-weekly interval. We had a meeting last week. As such, the financial report is not ready for this upcoming month. So I need a motion to have that ready for next week, which is the April meeting. Do I have such a motion? Paul Wood. Do I have a second? Wayne Jones. All in favor said motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion is passed. As such, then what we will do is we'll go to form. Do I have any open? Old business. It is not the King Clay meeting. David? Dave?
Well, I hate that the old business comes before the president's report because there's lots I may not know. But our classification issues are still unresolved with the university. Last month I'm Dave Lesher from the storage area. Last month I gave a report on what the experience was in the workplace of having those issues unresolved. Things have escalated since then, and I've got a young supervisor who's supportive in some respects, but it's his first job out. He's 30 years younger, and offering to be exceptional and pursuing merit pay advances at work. I've offered to do more work, and he's anxious to perform as the young supervisor he is and please the managers above him. That's not working out at all. It would really be useful to have a classification system rather than the favoritism and discrimination that goes on in my department. There have been any number of ethics lectures, and we had that Jeffrey or Joffrey Chattis or whatever his name is, come in and speak about the colossal changes that are going to come about in the workplace. And even though there are lots of colossal changes and the managers are moving up, there are lots of managers moving up, the efforts to cooperate with the union are almost non-existent that I can determine from the workplace. Like I say, maybe there are things I don't know, but I told the young supervisor that they put into what would be my successor duties as a more senior employee. I said, you take a lot on. I can give you a copy of my job description because there's lots of overlap, and I can help you with what you're doing. And he's just like, most of this you wouldn't be able to do. And he's anxious to equalize my job with that of an information associate that's not quite up to the job and working with me. And he says, I'm sorry if you end up getting on a manual duty, but you can't possibly, I'm good at organizing and you can't possibly help with this other. So the degradation in the workplace that results from not having a worked out classification system and middle management has to follow and giving management endless extensions to discuss it has meant these managers feel empowered to create their own times with their favorite people who feel beholden to them. And don't get me wrong about discrimination. It's a very exciting way to organize the workplace. If you move somebody to the street, from the street over people who've already been in Ohio State for a long time, they're only too excited to assume those duties as young people that they often are with them. What is it that management is so excited about me that they moved me this spot and they're willing to do anything to crush their fellow workers, to hurt your progress. And so they move over people who are set to retire, hopefully moving up in their earnings as they go along in their responsibility. You can't even volunteer for more duty with the jaybirds around that are moving up like they are. So we need a classification system. We need resolutions in the upcoming negotiations or the group agreements that we filed in 2009. So that's what I've got for old business. And on old business, let me say, the membership some months ago passed a resolution that old business and new business be included as agenda points on our posted flyers that go around the schools. And I hope that happens, because
I don't remember. I'm just going to slow it down.
Sure.
A bit. I don't remember past the resolution. I have to look at the thing. That it will be on the flyer. The meetings are sort of, the meetings are really directed by the membership at the time of the meeting. So if they don't, if membership votes to not go by regular business, they do that. If they don't do that, it'd be by their own vote. If it wasn't, it is not on the posting I see. And I'll try to make sure that it's on the post.
Oh, that's great.
I just don't remember it being a resolution, and it is a part of the regular process of the meeting. So I don't, it's kind of like a double thing. But that's, in any case, I don't see it, and I'll try to make sure that it's there.
Thank you.
And I can't really go through the classifications. I don't have the response in the last 2 weeks, and we don't record it today necessarily. So I don't know if everything will be captured. But we'll try. We'll try to get it right. But there is a classification system. So I would like to say that to say there is none is a little extreme. To say that it's sufficient for moving ahead and being progressive and working with people's instruction of what to do in their security in a particular set of skills and jobs is extremely deficient. And Chavez would have at some time been called a vice president. He is called vice president, but he really is a CFO, chief financial officer. And those corporate titles and those corporate habits are moving in the state of Ohio, not just that Ohio State. Well, it's a nationwide kind of push. Nationwide, not insurance, but from California to Florida. And civil service the civil service system in every state is under some kind of attack. Public workers in every state is under some kind of attack. The very heart of it is in Ohio, Wisconsin, Indiana, and Illinois. The most, I guess, in New Jersey. New Jersey state is filled with public workers. Filled with public workers. Most of them, the majority of them are CWA. And there's an onslaught attack there. So it's not as minute as the university. It's a big issue, which does not mean we can't take care of our part. It's multi-layered. We have a layer of our own to try to deal with, and we'll continue to do so. I wouldn't want anyone to not recognize that it is a push. The push, like a social cause, is bigger than OSU. And it's bigger probably than just regional thing. It's the thing that calls for us to look at ourselves in a way that says that all we really have to offer is what they give us to offer. And connected to not just what you do as work, connected to, they want to dictate your quality of life, your aspirations for yourself and your future. And you can see it on a national scale. The most recent example would be when somebody has 3 college degrees as a candidate to be president, says don't worry about getting a college degree. You don't need to have it. And the matter is that technology has changed. And even to do some of the most manual jobs, you need to have a little more instruction. Whether it be vocational or collegiate, you have to have a little more instruction. And I think that it's a very clear message for any candidate, Democrat, Republican, Independent, starts to tell you that you don't need skills to survive in this work economy in this country. They're telling you that there's a class of people who need skills help you rise up to a level where you're not just serving. And the children shouldn't worry about that either. They come from a farm, and stay on the farm. If they do manual labor, they should just keep doing it. Let me take care of those things that are above the fray of you little people. Which is not absent in when David's little young supervisor said, okay, it's too complicated. It is systematic. Now, we have things to do. Almost very sort of basic things to do. And we're going to continue to do better and better at them. But you should know that there is a certain kind of class warfare that has shifted. And David has a little disdain about middle class. And I've taken that disdain and said, well, really it's about working class. People have been attempting for probably hundreds of years, ever since the great industrialization of the country, to say you shouldn't have certain dreams or aspirations. Stay in your lane, really. So when we say that we want affordable health care, they say, the insurance company always say, stay in your lane. You're going to get what we get. And we're going to stay in our lane, which is full of milk, honey, gold, and silk. Stay in your lane. When you say, hey, we need something that is relevant to the cost of living and a raise, just stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Don't aspire for it. Don't aspire for your children. Stay in your lane. It's a really simple message. You say, want to buy a house. Somebody said the government shouldn't help you with that. Your job shouldn't be involved with it. If you're working on it, your job is involved with it. But overall, the land barons say, you know what, maybe it's time for you to rent. And maybe you ought to be teaching your children, your nieces, your nephews, your uncles, tell your parents, get out of that house, it's time to rent now. That aspiration. It is a plan. I would call it a conspiracy, but it's so open. They're telling you that. They're telling you. So, that's $5. So, every time you get that little message, and every time you get that little hit to your own personal economy, all right, really it's a part of the plan. It's part of the plan. So, our little microcosm, job classification, which really transports to job security or work security risk, is our part of fighting the plan. We have to hold on, kind of hold out and be active on the political party. You can't sit aside. You can't just watch. You have to be active. At any level that it comes after you, you have to be active. And so our attempt here at the second week of our bi-weekly meeting is to motivate you. One, you have to be active on those things. And for you to understand, second, that you don't work if you work for a house. You don't work for a mom and pop shop. You work with one of the biggest employers in the state. Probably only second or third to the state itself. And even then, as a local, as workers, you have some benefits that you kind of carved out that state workers don't have. So that message is only to say that it is not an inevitability that everything the university charges for will occur. That is university is a raging river. You can't be the bank of diversity because it has happened. It can happen. It will happen. You got to be active in it, and you have to be united. Because without that, you have an awful hard time with that. So that classification issue has been a long-term thing. They intend to make it much worse. The one that is existing through classification service, the one that is existent through their own laws that they promulgated, are all toward maximizing effort to the level that you just work. And by the way, working is not a four-letter word. It's only four letters in the word, but it's not profane. Most people, all people, are proud to work. Work is really the backbone of how you claim your independence. The culture would say to you, the culture that's coming would say, hey, what you want to do is to get money for doing nothing. That's tempting. But it's not really even the thing that would give you or your children, your neighbors, and people like that ownership of the things that you have. Because if you get something for nothing, it'd be taken away. It doesn't belong to you. You just got it. Work is not a profane word. You have to be proud of the fact that that is what you do, that you apply a trade, that you are a service to somebody doing something somewhere, and that your children are the legacy of you having done something that stands for something, and you did it. Now, while all these other things are coming to us, we have candidates that will leave the country that say that don't worry about having a college degree. Deleting, I have 3 myself. Don't worry about home ownership. Deleting, I have 4 myself. Don't worry about those things that are not for you. Foundation of this country is if you work for it. The government, the society, make it available for you. Making it available, opening opportunity is not free. You have the skills, the desire, the motivation to then take the availability of it. Take the opportunity, and you make it yours. We are not just waiting slaves. As we go into negotiations, of course, the things that we try to get are ways. Now, let me take this opportunity to say, a lot of you know, everybody knows that I believe, but you know, sometimes it's not said. It gets kind of, lost in the thought. It's not about how much money an institution has. It's about how to get them to give it to you in a way that suffices all those things I just talked about. And those things are not necessary, but you should be able to get them if you want. It's not about the money an institution has. In a way, I've seen over probably 30 years, and many of you have, people say you got the money. It's not the point. It only really becomes a point when somebody says, or an institution says, we don't have it. Until that time, that's not the point. The point is, how can you morally, how can you practically not share it in a way that's equitable? So we have a lot of circumstances where it's what comes out of your pocket instead of going into your pocket. So we most heartedly look for something that surpasses what we really coined this phrase is, no prior to say, because it hasn't been taken on like the wildfire, but cost of working. Cost of working. Some of it is reasonable, some of it is outrageous. That's why, in some ways, the public health care plan, had it been enacted quickly enough for us in this cycle, which I have made clear part, is an option. wife or other may be required to do things in order to get a discount. Not in order to just have insurance, but in order to have a discount of certainly a precipitous rise, not fall, but rise in the cost. I believe that you believe that's too deep in my house. For instance, my husband smokes. Well, he's going to cost you. Many spouses, wives, and others would say, he already cost you. But he's going to cost you some more, and it's by virtue of your job. So something like a public option takes that away as a virtue of your job. And so, of course, we look into that. They still have not, they really can't. Probably, the machine is too big. Even when you talk about performance pay, there's nowhere close to what the closest, classic, fair, equitable, and administrated correctly public pay, performance pay system is. So we have to address that. Now, what they have is they have a background. We are about 17,000. That was just a wish. We're about 1,700 here. Everybody else is on merit pay. Has been for years and years and years, 30 years. It's a common practice. Why don't you come on over? We have to be resistant because for years and years and years, and probably from this local inception, we started with things that were inferior to what classified civil service was at. True. So if they had something, like insurance, like vacation, like that pay they didn't have, but if they had it, you say, yeah, we want our people to have it, because you know then it was about being equal to. Now, most of our processes are superior. I've tried to do the grievance process at OSU. I never knew what the rules were. I still don't know what the rules are. They don't have timelines. There's no right to do this or right to do that. They still don't have it. There is no way at all for them to know how many days is in violation, how long that violation stays for. There's no real attendance policy. It only really counts, it depends on what your Uncle Buck tells you what it is. And he can change his mind. They don't have that right. We're superior. We're the only ones on the campus who can have sick time converted to vacation time, which is money to you. You're superior to them. Superior to them. They can't pick or choose their own advocate for things which happen in the performance system. You're superior to them. Even in the things that we don't necessarily like 100%, you're superior to them. The fact that you have some control in your own destiny of work. It is difficult. It's sort of an oxymoron that you're saying, you can say to anybody, hey, we're superior to that. We're not particularly like it sometimes. Management wants totality. Usually they haven't been trained. They may be a good skill person, right? Cook may be the best cook in the world, turn around and talk to you like you're garbage. That's not good skill for leadership, or management, or supervision. It certainly can't help get the job done. You are, in all those things and all those rights, superior. And it's hard to tell your superior that I'm superior. Co-workers, fine. There's no I in team. But there's an I in you. You know, It's used as a little tricky phrase, right? On I and T. That's the problem with it. The T should be on the unity, because there's both I and you in unity. That means that all of our concerns, are then together to combine in one principle. That principle is union. That means that we are blocked. You know, it's a difference between being a brick and a rake. You hit a brick, you have to go around it, over it. You hit a rake, you can go through it. Because the rake is not unified, it's perfect. You are superior to them. So what we have to do is act superior to them. At the risk of being mad. Terrell Davis and I were in a meeting one time where we were talking about a lot of different things. We were talking about attendance, we were talking about vacation conversion, which you get money back. We're trying to work something out of David says most of the time we're trying to be reasonable. Our reasonableness was full to its extreme because what we suggested was even more. Supervisor was on this committee, of course. Superintendent maybe, and they said to us, somebody from HR. They said we don't have no rights. We can't do that. We Mr. Day, this has to happen. One of them said to us, I believe, that they had a write-up not that long ago. Management. Terrell told them, join you. Get you some rights. So when we negotiate, which is this year, you know, we're kind of thinking of a different way to go. The table is really discussing what we're talking to. Because what we are asking for most of the time in that table is superior rights to the people we're looking at. And then we're asking them to take that back to the people who make decisions. What's that going to sound like after they finish with it?
Not like this.
Why wouldn't they serve their best interests to make sure that your superiority doesn't flourish? That's what it's all about. When you give a message to this group, they're workers, and you're asking for more than they get, you can almost be guaranteed that when they go to pass it on, this is what we heard, this is what we said, it's not going to sound the same. It's going to be tinted with, why don't you give it to me? Why wouldn't it? Or, since I have no right to ask for it, it's going to be just plain tinted with, I think this is outrageous. It's outrageous. But this is what they do. So, you know, we're looking to do it differently, and that differently that we're looking to do it, we're looking to have members talk about their experience as it relates to a workplace, your employer, and as it relates to loosely terms and conditions of employment, right? So it's not bad at all for someone to say, and we intend to report it. You know, and if you want to say it, you can say it, because I believe it's quite natural. Dr. Jones here has all OSU supplements. So this is my friend for the hospital. There's nothing wrong with it. And so you can say, hey, I like Ohio State. Well, you could say, I like working at Ohio State. You know, we hated my preference. In Trussell, I had to trust him. You can do all of that, but you could also say in a very earnest way, just earnestly, so this would be a better job if, right? They would be a better employer if. And those ifs is what we want to have articulated by you. If my pay raise didn't burn up, my pay raise wasn't burned up by insurance, which burns up my babysitting money, my grocery money, my car payment, my rent, or parking, escalating gas, You know, it'd be a better job if there was a way that that could happen. Right? I like working at it, it'd be a better job if I was able to get off work without taking my benefits time to see my son, daughter, baseball game, t-ball game, cheerleading practice, basketball game. You know, if we had those kind of things that work, it'd be a better job. You know, it'd be a better job if when I came to work, I had a classification that I knew what it was, I've been trained how to do it, and as the job changes, even in increments, I get the proper training to do it and allow to excel, allow to follow the technology of my work, and not leave it behind. So, I believe that it is more effective, or that the leadership can be more effective when the table and beyond the table understand that the leadership is following the leadership of the people. That's what they want. And when we get it communicated to others than the table, that becomes more effective. I believe that that becomes more successful. I believe that that can work better than anything has worked before. I believe that. So what I'm asking you, although this is not the biggest group we've ever had, neither is the smallest, and it's only been 2 weeks, I want you to, at this moment, imagine that you have a workplace that shows you respect for the things that you know, the contributions that you make. Imagine how different that would be. Imagine if you said, the parking's too high. And then it took on a life that said, you know, let me look at it. And instead of bringing back some shit, they bring back to you some tangible, touchable, positive options that says, you know, we are indeed a part of this familial gathering that says we have a job to do. Imagine that that can happen for you. It can happen for you, but you have to kind of push it. And you have to push it amongst each other. Imagine that you go to your workplace and you believe all these things. But imagine you go to workplace and the people, your co-workers actually say, hey, listen, can I help you today? What we got to do today? Let's get it done together. You know, let's get the job done. No, well, just imagine. So, no drama. You know, a lot of times they see gatherings of stars, entertainers, and such, and they say, well, we came to it. We are the world reporting. We put our ethos into work. And then we came and we did this thing out of a lot of the world. Right? Imagine if everybody came to work and put their defecation at the door. Just for 8 hours. And say, hey, let's do this thing. And when I see you stumble, I'll pick you up. Do the same for me. And then we get the clock out. When you go home, you feel bad. When it's time to get up, you feel bad. That can happen. Can't happen without action. Can't happen without activity. You can wake up and you can stop imagining that it will be there. It's deep. You don't have to tackle everything, especially if everybody's in the game, right? You don't have to tackle everything, but it is good to be aware of everything. So, our principal message is that we intend to do negotiations with. Our practical message is that in the last 2 weeks, we've agreed to kind of start on things April 1st. There's a theory to get it done in 5 weeks. I want to get it done in 4 weeks. Might not happen. Like church, spirit moves. Instead of getting out at 12:30, we'll get out at 1:30. the Holy Ghost does. So it'll have a life of its own, but my anticipation is to get it done as quickly as possible. Not leaving anything. And as they build up to that, I need people to make an appointment, to make themselves available to tell OSU how you feel, what you want, what will bring you to live up to the grandeur of their claims. They want to be the employee for choice. They want to go from excellence to eminence. They want to tell the whole world that. Mr. and Mrs. Wexler, most people know they got a lot of money. And they love people. And they're building institutions to take care of people. Well, taking care of people is certainly more than money. Stress kills more people than lack of money. That's job stress. Whether you're stressing over classification, whether you're stressing over the flexible schedule, whether you're stressing over the rocketing insurance, stress, whether you're stressing over the co-workers getting on your nerves. Stress kills. Absolutely. And while they have a big plan for health care and preventative care and wellness, I have a plan for eliminating stress. I don't know anything more stressful than having an out-of-place boss. Clock in every day, there that person is again. What the hell? I don't know anything more stressful than that, and nobody's addressing that in a managerial leadership, train these people way. And while, to some degree, some people might not care about that, I know that this is a killer. Make me call in. Especially Monday. Sometimes on Saturday. So, those things have to be addressed for our work environment. Our work environment has to improve. We're going to always look at money. We're going to always look at benefits, or we're going to look at the benefits of difference. We're going to look at classification as a nexus to our work environment. That's what we plan to do. That's the upcoming event. We have 5 contracts to do for our local I will participate in all of them. Some other teams will participate in their section that will come up. We have never bargained what we buy in the book to be called a concessionary contract. I wasn't really around when we did that. No, not really. So that might be due to the concessionary contract. The check exchange and change for the people out. But we still think that as you progress with your employment here, you should progress with your work. There should be a structure because we have a small agreement on that. The university sort of makes it easier. But most of the time, it's not about whether we agree or disagree with the university. It's about how we get there. How we get there, and whose interest is there. So our interest is used, and their interest is evidently profit. Moving further and further toward profit and organization. We're moving toward a place to work, maybe even a community or country that respects the fact that people work and respects the fact that people have opportunity. They monitor this country as the land of opportunity. And over and over again, people try to narrow that opportunity. They call them gift. We have to fight them, we have to struggle with each other, they have to be active. We need lots and lots of people to submit to a recording of things that they were right and the things that they think were needed. Now this serves 2 purposes. Actually. One purpose is, well, it serves a lot of purposes, but the main purpose that is sort of a service of what the people say. Because I guarantee you that's 3 times, 5 times, 10 times more important than what I'm saying. What I'm saying has to be supported by what you do. Or it means nothing. Even though I am 350 pounds, I'm not big enough to replace 1,300 people's wishes, desires, demands. That's the president's report. We'll move to question and answer. If I I get approved for a president report that I set the motion on the floor. Wayne Crawford, is there a second? Tony Brown, all in favor of said motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The motion is passed. Questions and answers. Answers to questions. Then Cornegay, Calvin Harrison, Tony Brown. Let's start.
Well, I just like to make a statement. We were invited to a workplace appreciation luncheon. We gave out certifications and certificates for, I guess, the best employee or whatever. I guess it was done by some kind of nomination. Anyway, I went there with all good intentions in my mind, I guess. I've never been to a banquet or appreciation luncheon where no one knew who was getting this certificate. So I went anyway. I would say they gave out 25 to 30 certifications. Some of them were job related, some of them wasn't job related. I couldn't understand is out of 30 or 25 to 30 certifications that was given out, not one was given to one minority. I've been here 10 years. I worked on 10 years. I couldn't understand that this process hadn't been duplicated and listed. It hadn't been lessened to me because I had my first doctorate in it. And you have all these people that got certifications and certificates that 1 year, 2 years, 3 years at the university with outstanding employees. But yet still, if you go back 10 years, you need to tell me in that 10 years you couldn't find nothing that one minority did during this process that warranted a certification or certificate. I really felt violated when I left here. I felt mad. I was angry again. Because I feel like when I come to work, I give you my best. I put in 100+%. It's not my problem if your supervision in the 10 years that I've been there, I've had 9 supervisors. That's a change over in your administration. Then you have this big grand old dinner at the Ohio Union, and that says, okay, that we're going to reward everybody that's in our clique. And that's basically what they've done. They didn't have anything that was basically geared toward your work performance. It was basically reward the good old boys that's in our network, letting you know who's in our network and what you're up against as far as really on the team. Basically, you're not even in the team. We're not even on the team.
Okay. Thank you. That, I think, is something that's really infused with, I hate the classification. You know, that's why work is more than just work. Work is a social. You know, that's work is kind of a social structure. Part of what a university is, it kind of gets you around people you wouldn't necessarily be around, and to learn other cultures and other people. There's still sort of a funnel that you have, or management is predominantly men, right?
Right.
And you are in a skilled trade.
Right.
So your daily thing is kind of a fight that has been embraced, but your comment is, I'm just bouncing from your comment to the fact that almost most of your higher administration, your senior vice president, that they will not be deaf to us bringing that to their attention and asking them to investigate that a little bit. So that's my suggestion for you. You give Kevin, he will have that happen. You need to make an appointment for that. And you have to say, and don't be afraid to say that, you know, it hurt me, right? Because hurt is not in the contract necessary.
And before the even luncheon started, I just made a statement that all the tables had a different centerpiece, but they had cups, umbrellas, coffee mugs. They had all kinds of different centerpieces. I just made a statement that, well, at our table, since I'm the first one sitting here, I guess I'll get the centerpiece. One of the higher ups that works in, he's at the Ohio Union. He said, listen, quit your bitching. He said, quit fussing. We're giving you a free lunch. Shut up. That's what he told me.
Well, that's abject disrespect.
That's what I told him I'm not fussing about anything. But the idea of the matter is at that time I felt like I really didn't want you there on lunch.
And I don't think anybody would be upset if you said, I don't want to lunch. I'm not suggesting you flip the table, throw the food, although they could happen. I'm not suggesting. I'm suggesting that you get with Kevin and have that addressed appropriately. And that is another sort of example of mismanagement. I mean, it's grossness to even have a person think they would talk to another person at work. I mean, you shouldn't do it at all, but I'm not really trying to make that kind of moral, mannered statement. I'm saying at work, that should be unacceptable.
Well,
How can you be limited? And then, I can understand it. Then how can you be an employer of choice?
Right.
If that's the choice that you come to. Mr. Harrison.
Project 1. Please pay attention to Project 1. If you don't know what Project 1 is, it is Gordon Gee's largest building initiative in the history of OSU. As of last week, it is a model for national development in the entire country. Now, for the last 6 months, I've been working on jobs adjustment. Let me bring to your attention that for the next 15 years, the university has been given a tax credit for job creation. That will impact your job for the next 15 years. Now, my concern, and I've been working on this because I live out east, and OSU East is part of Project 1. Even though you all may think it's out there and it's not connected, it is part of Project 1. OSU received $1 million last year for job creation. Not one job came and was benefited for that community, but they transferred jobs from the main campus to OSU East. Now, my concern, as you go into negotiations, if you're concerned about job security for the next 15 years, and the reason why your job is being pressured every day from upper management, they have been given instructions from the top down. If you don't like it, leave. But we got the money. We are the power base. We got this for the next 15 years. So if you're worried about job security, you are at what is called a crossroad, people. Every time in history there's a crossroad, there's a point in the road that you have to make certain decisions. OSU is at a crossroads, and starting next week with your vote, March 1st, as we enter negotiations, please take into consideration. It needs to be addressed. Project 1, as they're expanding, you can really double the total membership in this union and or in collective bargaining if you address Project 1.
Dr. Brown.
I'm speaking about an issue that I think you've been told about the training program over at the facility services in medical center. And it's been pretty much non-existent for the past 18 months to 2 years. I have learned recently, as this Tuesday, that they are now currently moving the facility to Ackerman Road, where it was unable to be accessed or used for the past 18 to 24 months. Now they're going to put it concern is, they do have shuttles that go back and forth from Akron during the day. I believe it's 6 p.m., 6 a.m., those shuttles stop. So, the second, third shift of the hospital, the maintenance. For anybody who would like to go into the session of getting their raise, we currently have a person that should be able to take 2 more classes, but he's unable to. And he's unable to be promoted to his next level on his pay rate because of this, which is costing him $8 a day. Multiply $8 a day for the past year, that's a substantial amount of loss to that particular individual. My question is, should grievance be filed on this behalf for them moving it? And number 2, for them basically having a defunct Williams learning program that honestly is outdated and unuseful and doesn't teach nothing.
The answer is, I'm surprised they're moving it to Akron, the training facility.
Yes.
What they have to do is provide access. What they have to do is provide access. If the hours for the shuttle limits that, then they should have access for every shift. It shouldn't be, only accessible for 1 or 2 shifts. So if they're not going to provide access for 24 hours, then if they're not going to provide it, then I think the grievance is appropriate for that. The second thing is that training program is not contracted. And so we could file a grievance probably under something, maybe the training article, to say that they have to provide something. The quality of that something then starts to be sort of negotiable, the details of it. But it's not something that is contractually based that they have to do. That's one thing. On the other hand, I believe that we can find some way in the contract to talk about career advancement and their responsibility for having a way to get to that title, because the title is in the contract. So something like that, something in that norm. So let us think about how we approach that. But on the first part, transportation and access to it, they just have to refuse to do it before we have something to grieve on. But the quality of it is something that I think we should always argue about. It's really tantamount to arguing about the quality of your supervision. What we want to have, I believe, is training that can be used anywhere and everywhere, not just precise to this particular employee in this particular department. So I'd say that that's an argument about the quality of the training. But yeah, there's a way to dispute almost anything unless it's just plain undisputable, and I don't know which thing are. Those are the kind of things that you don't know unless you hear it. But we'll make some action. You, Paul, and Miracle, and the rest of the hospital steward will talk about it and look at the best way. So at least everybody's informed, and then we'll take action. Mr. Woods.
I just want to tell you, Tony, I think they can tell that hours at Akron Road has been cut down. I think it's from 7 to 5 and all of that.
Oh, well.
Yeah, they really cut down the hours.
Point of order. I have a point of order to extend the meeting. I need a motion to extend the meeting. Do I have such a motion? Wayne Crawford. Excuse me. I have a second. Don Driscoll. Thank you. Don Driscoll, a second. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion is passed. Wayne Crawford.
My question to membership of the you were chair. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. That's great. As far as with some of the things that are going on with the also it's a nationwide thing too. As you know about things are going on as far as location and the likely work. In any type of way, we can counteract that, at least so we can like get some type of stance and put that on an appeal or referendum.
Our legislators, people, which doesn't include Bill Bain and this one, are working on, they're working on a campaign to fight against the right to work legislation. And I think we have some literature, we'll be getting literature regarding that. And you're right, that it's a contact relevant issue to us. And that'll be something.